Hey class, here we are for chapter 3 on the American Revolution. One of the things that comes up in this chapter that is going to be really important moving forward are the ideas of separate spheres for men and women. Men are in the public sphere and women are in the private sphere. This is something that we see again and again, even though in every era we have a huge array of examples of how these spheres were not perfectly separated and how men and women actually moved through both of them. The public sphere is supposed to be all the aspects of life outside the home, and these are all supposed to be dominated by men. This is commerce, politics, all these things outside the home. And the private sphere is intended for everything that happens within the home. Child rearing, all the domestic tasks such as cleaning, food preparation, making clothes, and these are all basically governed by women. But men still exist in the private sphere, they have to go home sometime. And women also exist in the public sphere, and this tends to be forgotten. We have examples of a lot of women who acted as business owners in commerce, but most women were also consumers. So even if they themselves weren't doing the shopping, they are driving markets to a large extent. So the idea that the public sphere, especially commerce, is free from female participation is really false. So the line between public and private was already a lot more fluid than even people at the time wanted to believe. But during the Revolutionary War, this line becomes even more blurry. With the boycotts that begin a few years before the Revolution, women's role as consumers suddenly becomes very politicized. If a woman chooses to purchase and then serve tea, she is making a statement that she supports the British Empire. If a woman chooses instead to serve coffee or hot chocolate, she is showing that she does not support those taxes by the British government. It doesn't matter what she thinks tastes better, those are political statements. The boycott on cloth and the emphasis on using homespun cloth instead of store-bought cloth brings the public and the private sphere together in a new way. Suddenly, this very female task of spinning and weaving becomes highly politicized, and a woman's willingness and ability to make cloth in her home helps support the revolutionary cause and the revolutionary ideals. Public and private are also merged in the ideal of Republican motherhood. So at the end of the Revolution, the United States gets its independence, and now they have to figure out how to run a government without a monarchy. And this is something that really has not been tried, especially on a large scale, since the days of the Roman Republic. So it's been 1700 years. In a republic, every male has, in this republic, every male has to choose his representatives to government, and those representatives are the ones who make the decision. So if you are a voter, you have to be fairly intelligent and up to date on what the issues are. You want to make sure that voters are choosing wisely. So this is where Republican motherhood comes in. We need citizens to be smart, and the people who educate citizens are their mothers from the earliest age. So if you want a child to understand the world, it would help if the person educating him, that is his mother, also knows what's going on in the world. This means that the burden of creating good citizens has now fallen on women. It's not enough for a woman to be well educated in the female sense of the word. It's not enough for her to be really good at the piano or at sewing. She also needs to understand a little bit about politics and philosophy and what it takes to be a good citizen, civic virtue, justice. These are things that women need to be able to understand so that they can teach their kids and their kids can go on to be good voters. So proponents of the Republican motherhood ideal still want women to participate in society through the private sphere. But we're starting to see this acknowledgement that what happens in the private sphere bleeds into the public sphere, that a home that emphasizes these good Republican sentiments will lead to people coming out of that home and being better voters and better citizens. So this places a lot of emphasis and responsibility on women to create good citizens. We haven't quite gotten to the point where we think of women as citizens yet, but I think this is a really important step, and it's a fascinating aspect of the revolutionary experience. Well, that's all I have for today, maybe a little bit shorter than usual. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know, and I look forward to reading your discussions on this chapter.